Who is the killer? A man got killed in his office. A calendar near the man has blood written. 6, 4, 9, 10, 11. The suspects are Timothy, Jessica, Jason, Sean, and Kenneth. Who is the killer? The answer is Jason. The numbers represent the starting letter of the month they stand for in a calendar. Murder on a Monday afternoon. A wealthy businessman named Elon Anderson was murdered on a Monday afternoon. At the time of the murder, there was the maid, the cook, the butler, the wife, and the gardener. They gave the following statements.
I was washing the dishes. I was cooking breakfast.
I was polishing the silverware and the dishes.
I was reading a book.
I was planting tomato seeds.
Who did it? The answer is, the cook did it. You don't cook breakfast in the afternoon. A romantic getaway. One summer, Mr. and Mrs. Johnson went on a trip to the mountains. But 2 days later, Mr. Johnson returned home alone. He went to the police and said that Mrs. Johnson had fallen to her death. The next day, Detective Ali visited Mr. Johnson and arrested him for his wife's murder. Johnson confessed and asked the detective how he'd found out he was the murderer. Ali said he'd simply called a travel agent and asked for some information. What did the travel agent say to the detective? The answer is, the travel agent told the detective that Mr. Johnson bought 2 plane tickets to the mountains, but only 1 return ticket. Office murder. A man was killed in his office. At the time of murder, there were only 4 people in the office: Billy, Thomas, Henry, Mike. When police interrogated them, they gave the following statements. Billy said, Thomas did it. Thomas said, Billy did it. Henry said, Thomas is telling the truth. And Mike said, Henry is not lying. After analysis, the police found out that only 1 person was telling the truth, and the rest were lying. Can you analyze the statements and determine the killer? Did you solve it right? Thomas was the killer, and Billy spoke the truth. If Billy was the killer, both Thomas and Henry will be telling the truth. If Henry was the killer, none of the statements will be true. If Mike was the killer, none of the statements will be true. Murder at Pickering Street. A crime has been committed at Pickering Street. The main suspect is a man named Edward. An eyewitness saw a man had been walking along the pathway when he was suddenly shot in the stomach. Edward was asked to tell the story right from the beginning. Edward said,
I was just hanging around the park when I saw this man walking along the pathway. Suddenly, a guy came up from behind him and shot him. I ran home as fast as I could.
I think this man is telling a lie,
said the policeman. How did the policeman know? Are you able to solve this mystery? The man was shot in the stomach, but Edward said that the man was shot from behind.